hard work or luck that got you where you are today?
I think hard work got me where I am today because I guess as a teacher, sometimes it can be difficult to get a job right out of college, and because I volunteered for almost 3 years in the Heart District before actually getting my credential and getting a job, I think I had a lot of experience that kind of got me where I am today. So it did take a lot of hard work and a lot of school.
What made you want to become a culinary teacher?
I actually decided I want to be a culinary teacher in high school. So when I was in high school, when I was a student at Valencia, there was a class called Senior Project. And at that time I wanted to be a pastry chef, so I profiled what you had to do to be a pastry chef. And then my mentor at the time, Mrs. Seyfried, who was the culinary teacher at Valencia, she told me that as my final project I should consider teaching her classes how to do cake decorating. So I did that and I loved it, and since I guess I was 17 I wanted to be a culinary teacher at a high school or junior high.
Did you have any other mentors?
Honestly, no. I would say Mrs. Seyfried and Mrs. Steele. I did observe Mrs. Steele, who I have her former position now. I observed her a lot when I was in college. So I would say maybe the teachers in the district. I kind of got to know a lot of the culinary teachers here in the district before I actually started working here. Well, I have some extra education. So to become a culinary teacher, really what you need is a bachelor's degree, ideally in something like home economics, which is kind of the old-fashioned word for family consumer sciences, which they call it today. So ideally a bachelor's degree in that, but you could just take a test to show that you understand home economics as well. You could have a bachelor's degree in almost anything. So a bachelor's degree, and then you have to get a teaching credential in home economics to become a teacher. I also have a culinary arts degree though, so I have a little bit extra, but that's not necessary.
What do you find most enjoyable about your job?
I think the most enjoyable part of my job is seeing kids obviously cook, but becoming really independent. So as a junior high teacher, when kids come into my class, sometimes they're a little nervous to cook on their own because they've never done it before. And it's fun to see them become independent and that kind of transcend into other areas of their lives as well.
What is the least enjoyable part of your job?
Oh, the least enjoyable part? I honestly really love my job, so it's hard to say what's least enjoyable, but if I had to choose something, it would be all the grocery shopping. I used to love grocery shopping, like going to grocery stores and being like, oh, this is so cool. But now I truly despise it. I hate grocery shopping. And I get frustrated at grocery stores, like an old woman would, so yeah.
What sacrifices did you have to make to get where you are today?
Sacrifices, I had to be very dedicated. So I went to school for a very long time. That was probably a big sacrifice. I think if you count my culinary school and clear credential and credential program, I was probably in college for 8 years if you were to add it all together.
What culinary school did you get to?
I went to the California Culinary Academy in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole nother issue, culinary school. But I would say sacrifices, probably a lot of volunteering. Even though I got a lot out of volunteering with the Heart District, I definitely think it was beneficial, but that would be a time sacrifice, I would say. So I got lucky, I got to live for free for a very long time, and I took advantage of that. I don't think so. Honestly, I didn't get a lot of pressure to do much of anything when I was a kid. My parents and my family were kind of just whatever I wanted to do, they were happy with. I was a 4.0 student, so I don't think they were too worried about what I would do. So I didn't have a lot of pressure. I was kind of a self-motivated kind of person. So I don't think I had a lot of pressure.
How do most people enter this profession?
Oh, that's a good question. Most people enter this profession, either you want to do it like I did and you start off and that's what you want to do and you study and you obtain that goal. But I know a lot of teachers that teach culinary where culinary was just a hobby. Maybe they were a math teacher and they really loved cooking and they decided, you know, when there was an opening in a culinary position, like, hey, I'm going to take that position. I'm going to change teaching jobs. So there's several culinary teachers in our district that were not originally culinary. They were math or English or things like that. So.
On your journey to becoming a culinary teacher, did you have any problems?
Oh yes, I did. I had a lot of setbacks. So when I was in college, it was when the recession hit, kind of like around 2008. So I had a very tough time getting into classes. So much so I was actually going to school in San Francisco at that time. So I actually had to move back home just to go to college. because I couldn't get into more than 2 classes at a time, so graduating was becoming really difficult. And then when I started my teaching credential program in about 2011, 12, the credential program I was taking at COC ended up getting canceled, so I had to be, they kind of stopped holding classes at COC at the time. I don't remember the reason. So I ended up having to transfer to a school that was all the way in Antelope Valley, which is about an hour away, so that was kind of a big setback.
Could you describe your typical work days?
Typical work days. I get here pretty early. I'm the type of person that likes to get stuff done before I start working. So I get here early, I set up for labs every day, or set up my materials, kind of get prepared. Teach throughout the day, prepping in between classes, and then at the, grading along the way. At the end of the day, sometimes I'll have to go grocery shopping for school and then come back and drop it off, things like that.
And then, would you consider this just work or your life's work? Like, do you think you're gonna retire out in culinary?
I think I'm gonna retire with this job. I think I'm gonna be an old lady teaching cooking forever until I retire. I really love my job.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 15-year-old self?
Advice to my 15-year-old self. I would say the advice I'd give to my 15-year-old self is just to keep moving, even if you have setbacks, just keep going, which I did. Advice I would give to any 15-year-old in general, though, when it comes to a career, make sure that you want to do what you think you want to do. So do the work, intern, volunteer, make sure that what you're pursuing is something you actually enjoy, because sometimes what sounds good on paper or what sounds good because you researched it online, when you actually live the job, you realize, oh man, this isn't for me. And you want to realize that ideally before you graduate high school. You don't want to realize that after you get a degree in something and you're done and you're like, now what am I going to do with this bachelor's degree in business, and I have no business running a business. So yeah, make sure it's what you want to do.